A lot of games have better AI than Cyberpunk 2077. A lot of games have more choices and consequences, and a lot of people don't seem to like this game very much. I don't blame them though. It's easy to get caught up in the hype, the controversy, and the hate regardless of whether it's actually warranted. And it also makes sense to punish a company that so poorly handles the release of a product people believe in. I may love this game for many reasons, but you don't have to. However, for all the things that this game gets wrong, and for all those that it gets right, there is one thing, one part of this game that truly elevates it above its peers. You see, Cyberpunk tells more than just the story of V trying to save themselves from death. Rather, it tells a story, like all great stories, that take us on an adventure with ourselves. An adventure that takes us into our thoughts, our minds, and one that makes this game so special. Police chases, traffic AI, apartments, bugs, glitches, performance issues, and missing features. These are all things that will or will not be fixed with time. But the story, the characters, and the moments you have with each are things that will always live on. Years from now, when we are past the drama, the hate, and the vitriol, I think we will look back on Cyberpunk 2077 with a respect many lack now.
Worst things when they switch up your identity, and you never even know you've become someone else.
My Cyberpunk journey began as a corpo, high in the skies of an Arasaka tower. The very first things I saw in the game were the highest rings of society, those with power and the money to back it. But it didn't last long, because after a short introduction, this was all stripped away from us. And so began the journey to get it all back, to become a legend in Night City, and to leave a mark on its history and V's legacy. In fact, the Nomad and Street Kid introductions weren't so different either. At the end of the day, the story always started the same, with a man or woman about to set forth to make a name for themselves. And that is what the story of Cyberpunk 2077 is all about. Early on, we meet shady characters, storm gang strongholds, interrogate adversaries, and break into the very den of corporate establishment and take their most valued possessions. Along the way, we talk about our dreams of becoming a Night City legend, of having a legacy worthy of our aspirations. And this is only exacerbated by the introduction of Johnny Silverhand, a rocker boy and terrorist stuck in our head, a man who lived his whole life to create a vision for the future, a man who sacrificed everything around him for a higher goal and purpose, a man that cemented himself forever in history after nuking Arasaka Tower and coming back to life as a ghost. But this is also where the game starts to change. Soon we are met with characters like Judy, Panam, Takamura, Barry, Victor, Mama Wells, Misty. Some who are new and some who we have met before, but they all have one thing in common: a true sense of being a real person. Each and every one of these characters has dreams and aspirations, and as we play the game, we go on a journey with each to see what really makes them tick. And it is these journeys that make this game so special. Because you see, what Cyberpunk's storytelling is and what makes it so great is it shows rather than tells. Panam isn't a lovable character because the game tells me she is. It's because she is a great person shown through her actions to the player, like when she remembers Jackie at the campfire, or helps you no matter the cost, or when she finally accepts you into her family, the Aldecados. We don't feel bad for Judy because the game tells us she's a broken soul. Rather, we see this when she cries in the bathroom when her best friend has left her. For Takamura, we grow to understand why he has devoted his life to those society thinks of as devils, once we hear how he was raised and hardened as a child. And the reason these moments are so special is because they are exactly what make the message of this game and the lessons it teaches so important. You see, the main goal of the game before these points was to become rich, powerful, famous, and cement our legacy in Night City forever. But weirdly enough, as the game goes on, and as you get to know these characters more and more, our priorities change. Where before I would take the coolest sounding missions, going on raids of enemy encampments and showing off my new combat abilities and augmentations I just bought, because I wanted to have fun. Now, every time I got a call from Pan Am, Judy, Victor, I dropped what I was doing and went to go help them. Even if that meant sitting and doing nothing but swimming in a toxic swimming pool for an hour, taking a ride through the desert in a tank just to talk. The way I was playing the game started to change. I cared less and less about that original goal I had, to become the biggest legend in all of Night City. Instead, I was more focused on just getting to know those I held close to me, and fostering real, meaningful relationships with them. In most other games I play to have fun. I play to conquer a goal and become the best, like when I rank up in Valorant. Or I play to unravel an awesome story that interests me, like in the Mass Effect series. But something weird happened with Cyberpunk. I stopped playing to have fun, and instead started playing for something much more meaningful, for the characters in the game. A lot of the slower missions in Cyberpunk are pretty boring on paper, but in reality they are so much more fulfilling. Before even reaching the end of the game, an idea was being implanted into our brains, a change of worldview. As you get further and further into this game, there are more and more missions with these characters, more and more moments that stop and make you think. When you first meet Johnny Silverhand, he is an asshole, and let's be honest, pretty annoying. But as time goes on, he opens up to you about his journey, his past, and his wants and desires. You find he is a broken man like all others, and one that is slowly coming to the realization that what he did changed nothing, and barely anyone remembers him for the Night City legend he once was. You learn that Judy, a woman swallowed whole by the city, wants nothing but to leave and start a life somewhere slower. You learn that Takamura has started to question the very foundations that established his steadfast honor to Saburo Arasaka in the first place. You learn from Pan Am and the Aldecados that unlike most people in the city, they are truly happy. Not because they reached some goal, or because they have all the power and influence that comes with becoming a legend, but rather because they have each other. Every character, every moment in this game is different and unique, but they are all trying to teach us the same lesson. If there's one thing that Night City taught us, it's that becoming a legend, becoming rich and famous, and making a name for ourselves never mattered in the end, but only for the moment. It was only by making real friendships and establishing real bonds with these characters that we see what truly matters. The rat race to climb the ranks of Night City has impoverished so many in its history. I don't mean in a financial sense. Hell, look through the hundreds of side stories and gigs of people turning their backs on those they held close, or biting off more than they could chew, and of being laser focused on nothing but themselves. Everyone that came to this city left it in pieces, regardless of whether they have a drink in the afterlife or not. And this message is seen in no better place than the endings of the game. Should you choose to go to Arasaka, seeking salvation from your death, you are met with something much worse. By chasing after only that which benefits yourself, you in turn become a monster, someone you can barely recognize, and you lose the autonomy that made you human in the first place. By choosing to become a legend in Night City, you become the leader of the afterlife, gain an amazing new apartment and view, and all the recognition you ever wanted at the start of the game. But you lose the ones you held most close to you. By choosing to end your journey early and take your own life, you are met with nothing but voicemails from those who left you behind, distraught and angry at how you left them when you meant so much to them. It is only in the Aldecado's ending that we see the biggest sense of hope. By choosing to leave the city and venture to Arizona with the family you have found and the characters you have grown to love, like Panam and Judy, only then do we truly feel a sense of hope. You see, the ending of Cyberpunk is always bad. That's the point. We are always doomed to death or something much, much worse. But it is by choosing those close to you, your family, your friends, and those you love, that you get to spend those last 6 months of your life doing something much more meaningful than being the best in all of Night City. Because it is only when you are met with your inevitable death, with your character, your V's death, the one you spent countless hours with growing in this world, it is only then that you are given the decision you have been waiting for all game: to blaze the path of glory or settle down in a quiet life, throwing away the dream of becoming the best in all of Night City. It is here, in this moment, that Cyberpunk shows you why family, friends, and those close to you are more important than all the bullshit. Even after spending potentially hours to get here, when you learn it is your final moments, everything you were fighting for suddenly no longer matters. But instead, spending your remaining moments with those you care for does. More than any other game, movie, book, or television show I've experienced, Cyberpunk showed us why the lesson it was teaching is so important. It's a lesson that so many other forms of media have wanted and warned us about before, for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. But Cyberpunk, at least for me, is the only one that truly made me understand it for myself. You know, recently I even replayed the Mass Effect Legendary Edition and experienced my favorite trilogy of all time all over again. But I noticed something this time. For all the great moments, like speaking to Thane, changing the course of the galaxy, and commanding my shepherd, nothing hit me as hard as Cyberpunk 2077 did. Even remembering all the great moments I had in Mass Effect, the fun times playing Grand Theft Auto, the slower moments in Red Dead Redemption 2, the late nights with friends in Halo and Call of Duty, exploring the world of Elder Scrolls and Fallout. Even remembering the favorite moments from movies, books, and stories from my childhood. I don't know. Something about Cyberpunk was just right. A journey I started as a man hell-bent on becoming a legend, someone worth remembering, instead ended with one surrounded by those that really matter. Family, friends, and those who would die for you. And in the end, even with all the opportunity to save myself, to become the living legend Night City desired, and to solidify my legacy forever, I chose the alternative. To forgo that goal that society has ingrained into our brains, not only in this game, but in our real lives, and instead focus on what really matters. Those around us who we care about. For my whole life, I've heard stories about older generations dying off and wishing they had spent more time with family. Stories of the rich and powerful who sold their souls only to realize none of it even mattered in the end. But I never actually felt it. The sadness that comes with abandoning those closest to you. Or despite all of society's demands for you to become something great, denying that to focus on more important things. To give away your dream of becoming the best in all of Night City for even greater ones. Cyberpunk taught us all the most important lessons we can learn. And that is why I love this game.
Sorry to have dragged you into this. Sorry.
V, stop.
You set me and your family, and how do I repay you? I'm taking you on an excursion through hell. It isn't fair of me, Panam. It wasn't fair from the
You
start.
know what's not fair? Did you want me to massage your bruised conscience? Well, I won't do it. We're all in this together.
You're right.
Imagine we're deployed together, fighting in a war, side by side. Would you take a bullet for me?
I would. Yeah.
This war's a people's war against a system that spiraled out of our control. It's a war against the fucking forces of entropy. Understand?
Gotta be something I can do about it.
Like what?
Don't know yet. Think I'll call Suze. Thanks, V. Sorry. But, I'd rather be alone now. Promise to keep in touch.